On the news tonight, Governor Sheriff Oborevwori inducted into Nigeria Order of Sports. President Bola Tinubu approves adoption of National Carbon Market Framework. Federal government announces plans to release 11.995 billion naira for payment of outstanding arrears to health workers. Abroad, President Samia Suluhu secures a landslide victory in Tanzania general election. Good evening and welcome to the Delta Television main news. I am Ogaga Ikama. You can also follow our news online on Facebook or YouTube at Delta Broadcasting Service Asaba, or visit our website at www.dbsasaba.com. The State Governor, the Right Honorable Sheriff Oborevwori, has been inducted into the Nigeria Order of Sports with the Distinguished Governor Award by the Sports Writers Association of Nigeria, SWAN. The award was presented at the MKO Abiola Stadium, Abuja, during SWAN's Diamond Jubilee celebration, marking 60 years of excellence in sports journalism. According to SWAN, the governor was honored for his administration's investment in sports infrastructure, youth development, and support for sports journalism. The body also commended his commitment to projects such as the reconstruction of the Warri Township Stadium, promotion of school and grassroots sports, and the welfare of athletes in the state. Receiving the award on behalf of the governor, his senior special assistant on media, Mr. Fred Odere, who was also conferred with the SWAN Fellowship Award, thanked the association for recognizing Delta State's achievements in sports. Other recipients included former Super Eagles coaches Austin Iguavo and Samson Siasia, as well as Olympic medalists Daniel Igali, Chika Chukwumerije, and Blessing Okorodudu. The Director General of the Delta State Bureau for Orientation and Communications, Dr. Fred Ogenesiwe, has disclosed that the state government is aiming to raise 100 billion naira in the first phase of efforts to support security agencies through the State Security Trust Fund. Speaking on Voice of Delta Radio Asaba, Dr. Ogenesiwe said Delta remains safe for investment and tourism, but enhancing peace and security was essential to the renewed hope for more agenda. He commended Chief Government Ekpemukpolo, also known as Tom Polo, and the management of Tantita Security Services Limited for donating 10 billion naira to the fund, describing the gesture as an outstanding act of patriotism and corporate social responsibility. Dr. Ogenesiwe urged other corporate citizens and wealthy individuals to emulate the generosity, highlighting that security was a shared responsibility. The Bureau Chief also noted that Governor Sheriff Oborevwori had been strengthening security through operational vehicles, logistics support, and monthly contributions from the state's internally generated revenue (IGR). He lauded the State Police Command and other agencies for their successes in combating crime across the 25 local government areas, including arrests and recovery of arms. Dr. Ogenesiwe stressed that the 100 billion naira target was achievable with continued collaboration between government, private sector, and citizens. President Bola Tinubu has approved the adoption of a national carbon market framework, the operationalization of the Climate Change Fund, and the restoration of the National Council on Climate Change (NCCC) budget line. President Tinubu, who stated this ahead of the 2025 United Nations Climate Change Conference COP30 in Brazil, said the steps were aimed at positioning Nigeria to participate in the global carbon market, potentially unlocking $2.5 to $3 billion annually over the next decade. Vice President Kashim Shettima, representing the president, emphasized that the measures were designed to attract investment, create jobs, and support climate-resilient projects in Nigeria's energy, agriculture, and industrial sectors. President Tinubu highlighted that climate action was both an environmental necessity and an economic opportunity, reinforcing the country's commitment to international climate negotiations and mobilizing funds for adaptation and mitigation. The National Council on Climate Change (NCCC), led by Director General Omotenioye Majekoduni, stated that the Council's decisions would influence the nation's global climate standing and requested that the Climate Fund the Climate Change Fund be operationalized. The federal government has reaffirmed its commitment to protecting all Nigerians regardless of religious background following recent comments by United States President Donald Trump. President Trump had on his social media platform Truth Social declared Nigeria a country of particular concern, citing what he described as the mass killing of Christians by radical groups. He warned that Christianity faces an existential threat in Nigeria and directed two top lawmakers, Congressman Riley Moore and House Appropriations Chairman Tom Cole, to investigate the matter. In response, the federal government, through a statement by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Kemiebi Ebiefa in Abuja, said Nigeria celebrates its religious diversity and remains steadfast in tackling violent extremism across the West African and Sahel regions. The statement noted that the government continues to mourn all victims of extremism while saluting the nation's armed forces for their efforts in combating insecurity. It added that Nigeria will continue to defend all citizens irrespective of race, creed, or religion, emphasizing that the country remains a God-fearing nation that values faith, tolerance, and inclusion. The government also describes the United States as a long-standing ally and expressed confidence that both nations will continue to work together to promote peace, stability, and democracy. The federal government has announced plans to release 11.995 billion naira within the next 72 hours for the payment of outstanding arrears and allowances owed to doctors and other health workers across the country. This was contained in a statement from the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, signed by the Deputy Director and Head of Information, Alaba Balogun. According to the statement, the payment is part of ongoing efforts to address welfare concerns raised by the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors (NAD) and other health sector unions, and to reaffirm government's commitment to industrial harmony and reform in the health sector. The ministry said the assurance was given during a high-level meeting between the Minister of State for Health, Dr. Isaac Saloko, and leaders of NAD following renewed agitations over unpaid arrears and allowances. The announcement comes amid a nationwide strike involving both 11,000 resident doctors across 91 healthcare facilities, protesting unpaid entitlements despite earlier assurances. NAD President Dr. Muhammad Suleiman recently disclosed that the government owes health workers an estimated 38 billion naira in accumulated allowances. The Health Ministry explained that in line with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's directive, another 21.3 billion naira had already been moved into the Integrated Personnel and Payroll Information System (IPPIS) account, and payment had commenced. In addition, the government released 10.6 billion naira for the 2025 Medical Residency Training Fund, which had been fully disbursed to resident doctors nationwide. The National Civil Society Council of Nigeria (NCSCN) has cleared the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) of all allegations of bias and irregularities in its 2025 staff promotion exercise. Speaking at a press briefing in Abuja, the executive director of the council, Blessing Akinlo-Sotu, said an independent investigation found that the promotion process was conducted in line with public service regulations and the Commission's institutional framework. According to Akinlo-Sotu, contrary to claims of marginalization, victimization, and breach of the federal character principle, the inquiry showed that the exercise was fair, transparent, and merit-driven. She explained that while there were minor administrative and logistical challenges, no laws were broken, and there was no evidence of deliberate bias against any staff. The council launched its fact-finding mission after receiving petitions alleging unfair treatment, underrepresentation of certain regions, and targeted demotions during the exercise conducted under the leadership of Dr. Aminu Meida, the executive vice chairman of the NCC. The investigation revealed that the process followed a framework that took into account federal character, manpower needs, and available vacancies within the commission. It also noted that some qualified employees could not be promoted due to limited vacancies at higher levels. Akinlo-Sotu added that the examination panels included representatives from all 6 geopolitical zones and officials from the Federal Character Commission to ensure transparency. While acknowledging minor lapses such as timing and logistics, the Council commended the NCC's Human Capital Department for taking corrective steps and apologizing where necessary. The Council further cautioned against using civil society or media platforms to escalate internal grievances, describing some of the controversies as the work of internal saboteurs. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, says it is currently destroying more than 80 containers of fake and substandard medicines and food items across the country as part of its nationwide enforcement drive. The Director of Investigation and Enforcement and Chairman of the Federal Task Force, Dr. Martins Uluyo-Made, disclosed this at a press briefing in Lagos. He revealed that the agency's officials recently came under attack during an enforcement operation at the Trade Fair Market in Lagos, describing the incident as a serious threat to NAFDAC's efforts to rid the country of counterfeit products. Dr. Uluyo-Made lamented the alarming rate of fake and substandard goods circulating in Nigerian markets, especially in major commercial hubs, saying the situation had reached an alarming level and that many individuals were profiting from the illicit trade. He commended the Nigeria Customs Service, led by Controller General Adewale Adeniyi, for its collaboration with NAFDAC in intercepting and handing over several containers of fake medicines for destruction. According to him, several cartons of fake, banned and unwholesome products were seized during the raid, in line with the Counterfeit and Fake Drugs and Unwholesome Processed Foods Act. Dr. Uluyo-Made also expressed appreciation to the military police and the military for their professionalism during the operation and reaffirmed NAFDAC's commitment to protecting the health and safety of Nigerians. The National Youth Service Corps (NYSC) has reaffirmed its commitment to strengthening collaboration with the Legal Aid Council of Nigeria to provide free legal services to indigent and underprivileged citizens across the country. The Director General of NYSC, Brigadier General Olakunle Nafiu, disclosed this while hosting the Director General of the Legal Aid Council, Mr. Aliyu Abubakar, and his team at the NYSC headquarters in Abuja. General Nafiu commended Mr. Abubakar's leadership, noting that the partnership between core lawyers and experienced legal practitioners had boosted both the confidence and performance of NYSC members serving in legal capacities. He emphasized that the collaboration between the two agencies continued to yield tangible results, with the NYSC providing qualified manpower and the Legal Aid Council offering core lawyers practical exposure to the justice system. According to a statement by the NYSC Director of Information and Public Relations, Caroline Embu, the NYSC remains committed to deepening the partnership for the benefit of the larger society. In his remarks, Mr. Abubakar requested that more core lawyers be posted to courts within the Federal Capital Territory as part of a pilot project aimed at attaching legal aid groups to every court in Abuja. He explained that the initiative will help tackle manpower shortages in the Council's offices nationwide and ensure that more indigent Nigerians gain access to justice. Established in 1976, the Legal Aid Council was created to provide legal representation to indigent citizens, and its mandate was expanded in 2011 to cover a wider range of human rights and legal issues. The NYSC Legal Aid Council partnership continues to play a vital role in promoting justice while equipping young lawyers with hands-on experience in legal practice. Youths in the Niger Delta region have been encouraged to maximize skill acquisition and empowerment opportunities by the federal government under the Renewed Hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu. This came at a summit for youths focused on the federal government's achievements and highlighting opportunities for youths and entrepreneurs across the region. Mora Isopan reports.
President General of the Niger Delta Progressive Alliance (NDPA), conveners of the summit, Ambassador Victor Udo, urged youths to take advantage of government programs designed to promote development and self-reliance. He cited the Student Loan Scheme NEL Fund, the Livestock Support Program, and the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas CNG Initiative, as well as the Bank of Industry Interventions, among other federal government's response measures aimed at empowering young people, women, and small business owners.
If you're not informed, you will remain in the dark. It is in the light of this that the leadership of the Niger Delta Progressive Alliance consider it imperative to bring to the knowledge of our people, to the traditional institutions, to youth leaders, to women, and to the stakeholders of the region that there are a lot of programs that are running in the country, but we are not participating in them, and our young persons are not benefiting from a lot of them.
In the same vein, the National Youth Council of Nigeria Delta State Chapter, represented by Mr. Israel Uche, called on Niger Delta youths to align with ongoing federal initiatives, stressing the importance of collaboration in driving sustainable growth and national unity. Goodwill messages and keynote addresses from notable personalities, including the State Commissioner for Youth Development, Barrister Thangold Trakiriowe, reaffirmed support for the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu.
I want to talk to you personally, the people of Delta State, that many opportunities which are floating out in the federal angle, that we are not really tapping out from that. The Niger Delta Progressive Alliance are here with something we have been hearing of, but we think it is a fraud. I want to tell you, Delta youth, that it is not a fraud. And it would be nice for each and every one of us to be part of this program that one part of the country are benefiting from.
The event also featured a panel discussion where participants commended the NDPA for creating a platform that linked policy implementation with grassroots engagement, calling for its sustenance to ensure measurable outcomes. Mora Isokma reporting.
The Delta State Police Command has arrested 7 suspected kidnappers and rescued 3 abducted victims in Ubeji community, Warri South. The police spokesman SP Bright Idafe in a statement said the suspects, all from the Ubeji area, were caught after officers raided an abandoned poultry house used as their hideout. The victims, who were abducted from a dredging site and ferried across a river, were safely reunited with their families. SP Idafe identified the suspects as Felix, Solomon, Jerry, and Gospar Omune, among others, and disclosed that 178 live cartridges were recovered in a separate operation. He noted that efforts were ongoing to apprehend other fleeing members of the gang and recover weapons used in the kidnapping. The National Emergency Management Agency NEMA has received 131 Nigerians returning from Agadez in the Niger Republic. The group, which includes men, women and children, arrived at the Aminu Kano International Airport early on Thursday, October 30. They were met by NEMA officials working with the Nigerian Immigration Service and other relevant agencies. Officials said the returnees underwent biometric registration and documentation to ensure proper identification and support for reintegration. They were then taken to the Nigeria Immigration Service Training School in Kano, where further profiling continued. NEMA says essential humanitarian support, including food, water, medical screening, and logistical assistance, was provided to all returnees. The agency emphasized that the exercise reflected the ongoing efforts towards ensuring safe and dignified return for Nigerians abroad. NEMA also highlighted its collaboration with the International Organization for Migration and the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons. Earlier this week, the agency received 153 Nigerians returning from Chad as part of similar efforts. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has flagged 2,658 illegal admissions conducted by 17 tertiary institutions across Nigeria during the 2024-2025 academic session. The affected schools include Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University with 1,847 cases, Osun State University with 492, and several others such as the University of Calabar and Redeemers University. JAMB said the admissions were carried out outside its Central Admissions Processing System (CAPS). JAMB reiterated that any admission made outside CAPS was illegal and warned both institutions and students of the consequences. The board explained that CAPS, introduced in 2017, ensured fairness and transparency in the admission process and allowed candidates to track and confirm offers. JAMB also cautioned that students who accept admissions outside CAPS risk being ineligible for the National Youth Service Corps (NYSC). The Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, warned that institutions found guilty of such practices would face sanctions, including license withdrawal and punishment of officials. Still to come on the news, King Charles strips Andrew of royal titles. Details of this and more coming up shortly. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us on the news. The global scene is next as we join our World News Desk.
President Samia Suluhu Hassan has secured a landslide victory in Tanzania's general election amid widespread controversy and reports of violence. Official results released by the Electoral Commission on state television show President Hassan winning an overwhelming 97.66% of the vote, dominating every constituency across the country. However, the opposition party, Chadema, claims that hundreds of people have been killed by security forces since protests erupted on election day. The unrest followed the jailing or disqualification of key opposition candidates ahead of the vote. Riot groups accuse the government of unleashing what they describe as a wave of terror in the days leading up to election, including abductions and intimidation of opposition figures. Chadema was barred from contesting the poll, and its leader is currently facing treason charges. Election day itself was marked by chaos, with protesters tearing down campaign posters, attacking police stations, and clashing with security forces. The government responded by imposing an internet shutdown and curfew nationwide. President Hassan, who took power in 2021 after the death of her predecessor, John Magufuli, is expected to use his victory to further consolidate her grip on power amid divisions within the ruling establishment. The United Kingdom has announced an additional £5 million in emergency funding for Sudan, following what it described as truly horrifying reports of atrocities committed by the Rapid Support Forces (RSF) during the capture of El Fasher in the Darfur region. The UK Foreign Minister Yeti Cooper made the announcement during a conference in Bahrain, condemning the violence and calling for urgent international attention to what she termed one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. El Fasher, the last army stronghold in western Darfur, fell to RSF last Sunday after an 18-month siege marked by bombardment, starvation, and mass displacement. The new funding comes in addition to the £120 million already pledged by the UK to support Sudan over the past year. Of the latest package, £2 million will specifically go towards assisting survivors of sexual violence in El Fasher.
Let's join our business news desk for stories on business and the economy.
The Petroleum Product Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, has called on the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, to hasten the reopening of the nation's refinery before December to avert fuel scarcity and price hikes during the festive season. Petron President Dr. Billy Harry made the call in Port Harcourt while commending President Bola Tinubu for approving a 15% import duty on petrol and diesel, describing it as a bold step towards promoting local refining and energy security. Dr. Harry, however, cautioned that poor policy implementation could hurt fuel importers and create monopolies, urging the NNPCL and the NMDPRA to ensure fair regulations and adequate crude supply. The Naira has gained 15 Naira 23 kobo against the US dollar at the official foreign exchange market. According to the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, the local currency closed the week at 1,421 Naira 73 kobo to the dollar. Economists said the gain was driven by improved foreign reserves, rising oil revenues, and increased remittance from Nigerians living abroad. Analysts noted that the central bank's intervention in the forex market also helped stabilize the Naira. The positive trend comes shortly after Nigerians' removal from the Financial Action Task Force grey list. Experts say if current economic measures continue, the Naira is likely to maintain its upward trajectory in the coming weeks.
Isoko North has emerged winners of the third edition of the UBEC Subeb Governor Oberewori Basic Education School Sports Competition after garnering 3 gold and silver medals to beat Saple and Warri South to 2nd and 3rd place. Jude Agbeyeke reports.
The event, which featured football, Scrabble, athletics, and table tennis in boys and girls category, saw Pesu Primary School Warri trouncing Obioma Primary School Owabe Okwane 4-1 to emerge champions and Team Delta's representative at the zonal level in Benin City. The chairman of the State's Universal Basic Education Board, Honorable Samuel Marere, commended Governor Sheriff Oborowori for his support, which has seen young talents from the urban and rural areas showcasing scintillating skills and preparing them for the international scene in the nearest future. Honorable Marere said the Basic Education School Sports Competition was a continental event with the various states presenting a team for the zonal and national qualifiers, while the continental showpiece holds in Burkina Faso next year. He said to this end, the athletes who excelled at the competition will be kept in a camp ahead of the zonal eliminations in Benin City, with Pesu Primary School Warri representing Delta State in a football event at the zonal finals.
Well, I can see that we have never lost anything under Right Honorable Sheriff Oborowori. You saw it yourself. We are prepared for Bauchi. And by the grace of God, we will win every medal there in Bauchi. The children are prepared. You can see the quality. You can see the relay. You can see the athletics. You can see the table tennis, the shares. You can see every game that we participated in. You can see how much we are prepared. And by the grace of God, we will make it when we get to Bauchi.
The state coordinator of the Universal Basic Education Commission, Mrs. Sharon Dafilelo, extolled the state government for its continued investment in sport, saying the talents discovered at the games would fly the nation's flag in future sporting events. The zonal elimination holds in Benin City next month. Jude Agbeyeke reporting.
Next is a thought for the day. Never limit yourself because of others' limited imagination. To end the news, here again are the main points. The state governor, the Right Honorable Sheriff Oborowori, has been inducted into the Nigeria Order of Sports with the Distinguished Governor Award by the Sports Writers Association of Nigeria, SWAN. The award was presented at the MKO Abiola Stadium, Abuja, during Swan's Diamond Jubilee celebration marking 60 years of excellence in sports journalism. President Bola Tinubu has approved the adoption of a national carbon market framework, the operationalization of the Climate Change Fund, and the restoration of the National Council on Climate Change (NCCC) budget line. President Tinubu, who stated this ahead of the 2025 United Nations Climate Change Conference COP30 in Brazil, said the steps were aimed at positioning Nigeria to participate in the global carbon market, potentially unlocking $2.5 to $3 billion annually over the next decade. The federal government has announced plans to release 11.995 billion naira within the next 72 hours for the payment of outstanding arrears and allowances owed to doctors and other health workers across the country. This was contained in a statement from the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, signed by the Deputy Director and Head of Information, Alaba Balogun. That ends the news. You can also follow our news online on Facebook or YouTube at Delta Broadcasting Service Asaba, or visit our website www.dbsasaba.com. Thank you so much for watching. I am Ogaga Ikama. Good evening.
Governor Sheriff once said, "A modern Delta is not a dream, it is a vision."